Psychology says people who overthink every conversation, every decision, every tiny detail are often misunderstood. They aren't neurotic, not paranoid, and definitely not failures. In many cases, their brain operates at a cognitive processing level that makes standard thinking feel reckless, incomplete, or dangerously insufficient. And if you've ever stayed awake at 3 a.m. replaying a conversation from last Tuesday, there are legitimate psychological mechanisms behind it. Your brain runs threat prediction algorithms constantly. You are running evolutionary survival software. Individuals who engage in anticipatory thinking possess what scientists call sentinel intelligence. Ancestors who predicted threats, wind, or a predator survived long enough to pass on their genes. Your brain detects uncertainty, therefore it generates scenarios. Because generating scenarios increases survival probability. Your nervous system rewards this behavior with a sense of control. So you continue the pattern. You aren't being irrational, you are being adaptive. While most people stumble into situations unprepared, you have already mentally rehearsed 12 possible outcomes and formulated responses for each one. This means your overthinking isn't a personality flaw. It is a biological insurance policy. You scan environments for danger not because you are weak, but because your protective instinct extends beyond yourself to the people you care about. You process social interactions through an empathy simulation engine. People who overthink rarely operate from selfishness. They operate from hyperempathy. Psychology identifies this as predictive emotional processing. When you replay that awkward comment you made at dinner, you aren't obsessing over your own performance. You are analyzing how your words landed in someone else's emotional system. Because you fear harm, you run post-interaction analysis to calibrate future behavior. So you replay conversations searching for micro-signals that indicate whether you hurt, confused, or disappointed someone. While others speak without filtering, you carry the emotional residue of every exchange. This creates what researchers call the empathy tax. You invest cognitive resources into modeling other people's internal states. You are constantly running simulations that ask, how did that make them feel? And what did they really mean? This isn't weakness. This is the mental architecture of someone who refuses to move through the world carelessly. Your nervous system lacks a relevance filter for incoming data. You don't just experience reality, you process reality at a resolution most people can't access. Psychology links this to sensory processing sensitivity. Your brain doesn't automatically discard irrelevant stimuli. You notice the micro-expression that flashed across someone's face for half a second. You detect the shift in vocal tone. You read the subtext in a 3-word text message. Normal brains filter input through a relevance hierarchy. Your brain processes that noise as potential signal. Therefore, you absorb exponentially more information per interaction. Because processing requires energy, you experience what others mistake for laziness. They see you sitting quietly and assume you're doing nothing. You are actually running a high-performance analysis of everything you encountered that day. Research confirms that highly sensitive individuals process information more thoroughly than average populations. This means your mental exhaustion after a simple social event isn't exaggeration. You genuinely experienced more of that event than everyone else in the room. Overthinking is fundamentally imagination without a target. Studies show a robust correlation between anxiety disorders and creative potential. Your mind generates scenarios, patterns, and connections constantly. This is cognitive horsepower. When you don't harness that engine toward productive problem solving, it redirects toward catastrophic speculation. The mechanism works like this. Your brain evolved to solve complex problems. Therefore, it seeks complexity. Because modern life often lacks genuine challenges, your mind manufactures challenges to satisfy this drive. So you create elaborate worst-case scenarios using the exact same neural architecture that produces innovation, art, and strategic thinking. You aren't suffering from a broken anxiety mechanism. You are suffering from unused creative capacity. Your brain is sending you a signal that says, give me something worthy to analyze. This is why overthinkers often feel relief when engaged in complex projects. The mental engine finally has legitimate fuel. You hold yourself to optimization standards that most people never consider. People who overthink typically operate from a perfectionist framework. You analyze decisions exhaustively because you are searching for the optimal path, not merely an acceptable one. Research demonstrates that while this trait generates significant stress, it also produces higher quality outcomes. You have internal standards for how things should function, therefore you experience friction when reality falls short. Because you refuse to accept good enough, you think twice, 3 times, 10 times before acting. You aren't being indecisive, you are being rigorous. You are attempting to close the gap between your vision of excellence and the messy reality of execution. This creates a paradox. The same mental process that causes you stress, the endless analysis, also positions you to produce work that others can't match. You see flaws that others miss. You anticipate problems before they materialize. You build solutions that account for edge cases that never occurred to anyone else. If you overthink everything, it doesn't mean something is wrong with your brain. It means your brain works differently, with deeper foresight, heightened empathy, finer-grained sensitivity, and elevated standards. You have a strategist's operating system in a world that often rewards impulsive action. You aren't broken. You are running more sophisticated mental software than the people around you. The challenge isn't to stop overthinking. That is like asking your lungs to stop processing oxygen so efficiently. The challenge is to redirect that processing power toward problems worthy of your capacity. Because when you channel that analytical power toward creation instead of catastrophe, you don't just stop suffering, you start dominating. If you recognize yourself in this psychology, drop a brain emoji in the comments, so we can build a tribe of strategic thinkers. And if you want to understand the deeper mechanics of your complex mind, hit that subscribe button, because the next video might completely reframe how you see your greatest strength.